many 2D games that I love. I mean, obviously, I love Double Dragon and Streets of Rage and all that, which it has a lot of roots for where Shank came from. But also, I mean, Street Fighter 3 in particular, I love the animation in that game, and it's got a lot of depth. And then there's the top downs. I mean, Zelda. Zelda: The Minish Cap is probably one of my favorite games of all time on the GBA. It's one of the most balanced paced games I find. For Double Dragon, it was one of the first games where you really feel like you're in control of the character. You can do different types of moves, and you can grapple the guy, you can beat him a few times, all that. Minish Cap, Zelda Minish Cap it was about the pacing. Every time you got something, there was a new carrot, and the puzzles never got too hard, but never too easy. I think I played that game over 3 or 4 times into completion. And in Street Fighter 3, I mean, obviously the animation is just gorgeous, but also the mechanics were really, really deep. I mean, if you watch the tournament videos of them, they're just flabbergasting. And the more you play it, the more fun it gets. In every way, I suppose, is the right answer. In terms of being inspired by other developers, I mean, I take a look at recent games as well, Mass Effect, and the way that they tell their stories, and the way that they can craft something together. But Prince of Persia for their controls and their elegance. But also, of course, in the old games, and again, Double Dragon is something that we reference a lot in terms of our game making. In terms of the combat system, we look at games like Soul Calibur and other fighting games, and how they make mashing buttons so much fun, and yet still have depth. We focus on the experience of the player. So when we look at it, we look at it from what is it that we're trying to achieve. Why is the player smiling when they're playing this game? And so, for example, on Shank, we felt that the controls needed to be liquid smooth. And so we spent months just running Shank around without even attacking. So I guess from a control standpoint, we focus a lot on that. And then from a presentation standpoint, so it all just kind of comes together into one big experience when you're actually watching a person play. Eats would be the last game that we actually made in-house, and it was also one of the first games that we shipped for Klei. That was also a 2D game, and it's a puzzle game. And the way that it sets apart from other games is, well, I mean, it has a really, really unique visual style, and I think that is one of the trademarks of Klei. It's got a very unique style. It's almost it's super saturated actually when you take a look at it. But when people play it, they're like, wow, we really love the way that the game looks. And then we spent a huge amount of time making the mechanics of the Incredible Machine shine in the kind of a quirky, more organic kind of environment. So what sets Shank apart? We call Shank a cinematic brawler, and in our opinion, that's what sets it apart. It is a new type of brawler experience. It's something that it's not just the visual style. Of course, that adds a lot to it, and of course, the animation adds a lot to it. But it's all the things put together. It's the fact that when players look at the game, they say, "Wow, that's gorgeous!" But then when they pick up the controller, they're surprised. They're surprised because they can actually control Shank in the way that they think they can. Even though when they looked at it, they thought it was all canned animation. And so we take a lot of pride in that. Even though we have great visuals, it wasn't at the expense of great gameplay. My education is in programming. So I have a computing science degree and math from Simon Fraser. And my first job was an engineering job. So I was a programmer at Relic Entertainment, and that really shaped the way that we built our company as well. I mean, obviously I was doing a lot of programming for many years for our studio as well. We've ended up building our own tech over time. We split it up pretty traditionally in that sense, in the core sense, in that the work is split up between the engineers, the artists, and the designers. But in terms of, because we are a smaller studio, there's a lot of cross going on. So, the programmers are doing a little bit of design work. The designers do have tasks that could be related to programming, and the artists also know everything. So it all kind of ties together, and I think that is obviously the best way to go about it, so that you can get some really harmonious things going on. But yeah, we split it up pretty traditionally in that sense. Well, our creative director is Jeff Agella, and he comes from the animation industry. And he's been with us for a number of years. Jeff and I worked on Sugar Rush together, and we came up with the idea of Shank, just brainstorming the game. And we got the idea of creating a cinematic brawler, but obviously it was up to Jeff to create the art style, to create the feel of the game there. And, in terms of programming, I mean, there's 4 programmers on the team, and then there's me, and I'm hardly doing any programming anymore. Last time I did any, they actually got mad at me, so there we go. In terms of what part was very difficult was the amount of content that we have in the game. I mean, we've got that's one of the cool things about working in the next gen with 2D content, is that you can do so much more with that hardware. And so now we're looking at really huge sprawling levels with 9 layers of parallax all in HD, and that was a pretty big thing to overcome. But we did, and of course the results, that's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. So one of the big things, there's so many things, of course, that can go wrong and have gone awry and things like that. We've been extremely lucky though too. One of the big things about indie games in general is just getting the recognition. And so we spent a lot of effort to make sure that people at least even know about our game and give it a chance. And so one of the most fun things and most stressful things was going on trade shows. And the first one we did at PAX 2009 in Seattle was huge for us and gave us great coverage. But wow, was it ever stressful, and wow, was it ever crazy. I mean, we made maquettes for it. So we spent the money to go and build the figurines of Shank and have them built in China and then shipped over to Seattle while we're at the conference, and having huge boxes of stuff getting shipped to Seattle and trying to find a place to put it was not easy. And then trying to save money so that we could actually put up together a booth, that was also not easy, where I took down my entire stereo system from home, my home theater system. Everything was wall mounted on my home. And I took it all down, brought it all down to Seattle in order to set up there, my receiver and everything, and going through the border. And it was just a big gong show, but it was a lot of fun. And we all got sick. At the conference, there was some swine flu going around, and everyone got something or other, and it was crazy, but it was worth it. I think that in terms of future games, I mean, Jeff and I always have new ideas coming along, and we always say that ideas are easy, but it's the execution that's the hard part. For us, we've always been thinking about other games that we're doing, but in terms of the philosophy of what we make, being able to create a new experience for players, that's always been one of our main things. So for Eats, we created a new puzzle experience for people. For Sugar Rush, it was a battle experience. For Shank, it was a cinematic brawler. And so that's continually how we're going to build it. And we've always also been focused on new IP. So we've been building new IP since the day the company was born. And I think we're going to continue doing that.